Alzheimer's is impacting more and more people and families. That as it grows at an extremely rapid rate. The book on Pluto, Inside the Mind of Alzheimer's, tells of one man's quest to live with, not die with, that terrible disease. A short time ago, I spoke with its author, Greg O'Brien. Greg, thank you very much for a few minutes. I appreciate it.
Richard, it's a pleasure to be here again.
About a year ago, we spoke, and I can't tell you the amount of people who've told me about the interview that they were going through the same things in their household and a loved one, and the challenges, and also for them the lack of a roadmap, because some days were better than others, right. And they were happy that somebody had enough courage to speak about the realities of it, the warts and all. And I'm curious, before we get into how things have changed in the past year, has there ever been any regrets for you about being so transparent about the hurt, the anger, the frustration that comes along with this awful disease, that you've really laid bare your soul?
It was difficult, and there are times I wondered if I could do it intellectually, if I could do it emotionally, and I just saw that there was so much at stake. You know, I've lost a lot of family members, my maternal grandfather, my mother to Alzheimer's. I had an uncle recently who died of Alzheimer's dementia, and before my father died, he was diagnosed with dementia. And as a journalist, I just came to the conclusion that I had no choice. You know, this is one of the bigger stories, and I've covered the mafia, and I've covered presidential candidates and things, but this is a bigger story, and shame on me if I didn't tell it. And it was hurtful, it was painful, and it was therapeutic. And on Pluto, Inside the Mind of Alzheimer's is the first book ever written by an investigative reporter embedded inside the mind of Alzheimer's, chronicling the progression of his own disease. And I did it with the help of three New York Times best-selling authors, one of which is Lisa Genova, who wrote the New York Times bestseller Still Alice, made into the movie, and she wrote the foreword to my book. And just a lot of people rallied around me for it.
And in fact, there's going to be a Nova documentary coming out next year on this?
PBS Nova. Well, it's a tremendous documentary coming out, being produced by a woman named Sarah Holt. It's about Alzheimer's. It's the international story about Alzheimer's, and they're using my journey as a part of the piece. But it's an extraordinary piece about the disease and research, and everyone should watch it. You know.
Sometimes you don't think. When I saw you, I said, "How you doing?" It's a loaded question, because
but you know, I don't want people to treat me differently. I mean, doing interviews like this are tough to do. You know, I mean, we live in a society, Richard, where everyone wants to do a drive-by, and you know, I would ask you, do I look like I have cancer? Prostate cancer. I have it in 5 places. I'm not treating it. It's my exit strategy. Do I look like I have depression? I've had clinical depression since I was a boy. Do I look like I have spinal stenosis and scoliosis and degeneration of my spine, which has happened since the last time we talked, because of sports, but also the brain signals are not going down? Do I look like I have Alzheimer's? You know, we want to have this stereotype. We don't want to address anything in life until it's a crisis. And so it is with Alzheimer's. And what I'm trying to do is work to make Alzheimer's popular. There are people like me who are living with this freaking disease, who have lost their jobs over it. 60% of my short-term memory now, Richard, is gone in 30 seconds. Okay, maybe I look good on a camera. So what? I get and there are people who are in society who are dealing with this. I don't recognize people I've known all my life, including my wife on 2 occasions. My mind will paint faces of other people, and I'll go up and say hi to someone thinking that I know them. You know, I pick up a cell phone at times, not know how to dial or what my lawn sprinkler does. Or there are times I've opened my wood stove, and that smoking hot piece of glass behind the wood stove, my brain has told me it's okay to push it open with my hand. I'm putting my laptop and phone, iPhone in the refrigerator at times, or the microwave. My brain says it's okay. And the other day, and you know,
Your business cards, right?
Yeah, my wife found business cards in the dishwasher. And you got to laugh because I was washing my business cards because my brain told me I had spilled coffee on them. And Richard, if you can't laugh at life and a disease or evil, whether it's ISIS or Alzheimer's, it intimidates. And what I'm telling people, that this is a disease that generally can take 20 to 25 years to run its course. And those end stage symptoms are not so obvious until the end stage, but there are people, but at that point you don't know. It doesn't, I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, of course it matters, but you're not aware. But there are people like me, millions and millions of them, who are struggling with this, who are afraid to talk about it. And to use a phrase, we need to come out of the closet. We need to embrace this. We need to take this disease seriously.
I've thought since our conversation, and I can only imagine, because in some ways, like you, my mind is what I've got here. Other people got different things, but for me, being facile or quick, and that's how you made your living. And I can just imagine how frustrating it must be when your personal freedoms are curtailed. You can't drive at night now.
Yeah, the doctors since we talked, I had a serious accident last December. A deer darted across the road near my house. The doctors are asking the question, was it really a deer or did you imagine it? Because I'm seeing things that aren't there. And I turned my car to the right. About 9 o'clock or so at night, my car hit a stone wall in this church parking lot, was airborne. It crashed, it rolled twice, it cut the top of the roof off, and my head hit the windshield with such a force that I had to have surgical staples after an ambulance ride. It was a second traumatic head injury. The doctor said I shouldn't have walked away from that. And that accident happened in the Catholic Church where we had my mother's funeral, who died of Alzheimer's. Do you believe in angels?
Mm. Explain, and I didn't understand this, especially in the past year, how the light can go out, and also how different times of the day, sundown. Explain how light can make such a huge difference for you.
Yeah, Alzheimer's is like a light in the early stage, like a light going out in your brain. And when I speak to people around the country, I start by saying, how many people in the audience have lived in a house with a basement? Most people raise their hands. How many people in the audience have done their laundry in the basement? Most people raise their hands. How many people have been down at night doing the laundry in the basement when someone in the kitchen didn't realize you were down there and shut the light off? What do? If you're me, you're carpet bombing F-bombs. And you're yelling and you're screaming. And that's Alzheimer's in the early stage. Without notice, the brain, it's all electrical currents. Someone cuts the line and the light goes out. And you go into rage and you scream. And you're screaming not so much at the person next to you, although it may seem like that. You're screaming at your brain to turn back on. And in Alzheimer's, the light goes out, it comes back, everything's normal. And then, whammo, it happens again and again. And at some point, it's just hard to talk about, but the light goes off and it's never going back on again.
One of the things you mentioned was how much family you've lost to this disease or that was impacted by it. You got family, and obviously there's a genetic component to this. That's got to keep you up at night too.
Yeah, a couple things. Many people who have Alzheimer's don't have a gene, so you can still get it. I carry the gene APOE4. And anyone can look it up. It's a risk factor for Alzheimer's. It's a marker gene, and I worry about my kids. The statistics say there's 50% chance they could have Alzheimer's, given the family situation. Because it's not my fault, but these are my children, and I fear for them, and they get scared, and excuse me, and they get scared, and my daughter Colleen, before she got married a year ago, she said, "Daddy, should I get the gene test?" I told her no, because we don't have a cure now. So why get a test when there's no cure? We need far more appropriations in the Congress. We need people yelling and screaming. They say that in short years to come, the next 25, 30, 50 years, there'll be two types of people in this world: those with Alzheimer's and those caring for someone. That epidemic is here. It's not woulda, coulda, shoulda. We're in the throes of it right now.
And it's one of the biggest killers, and it's the only killer out there for a disease that's actually growing in scope. We're going to get into all that, and I'm going to tell people how they can and should do something about it to help. But you mentioned before, among your laundry list of maladies, you got prostate cancer, and you consciously, for a smart guy, chose not to treat it, and I'm curious why.
I was there when my mother died, and I have memories of my grandfather, and I don't want to take my family and friends to that place.
You don't seem like a guy who likes to have sunshine blown you know where, so, and I don't do it often, but honestly, you're the bravest guy I've interviewed. And I don't know if I'd have the courage to speak as openly about this, but I think you help a lot of people when you do it. So what we're going to do on the other side of the break is we're going to bring some other folks who are raising a ton of money to deal with this, and they're going to also tell you not just what to look out for, but also how you can, and I can opinionate here a little bit, should do something to do about one of the fastest growing killers in our society. Greg, thank you again,
God
and I
bless
hope
you.
next year we have the same conversation.
I would love that. Thank you.
Up next, as Alzheimer's grows at an alarming rate, we speak with two people who are leaders in trying to stop that trend.